Every Friday, no fail. Thank you, Steve Levy. We need a new pick for you. Less of a mugshot oriented. I couldn't agree more. And in fact, that picture is at least 15 years old. So I think today, you can certainly say it is definitely a catfish. Anyway, folks, welcome to Brain Food Live on Air. Of course, we're always having this conversation. This is the second show of the week. As you might know, I'm kind of traveling around East Asia right now. But the shows on Friday are going to stay on time. So it's going to happen Friday, 2 p.m. BST, 3 p.m. CST, 9 a.m. ET, no matter where I am in the world right now. So I'm delighted to be here with you today. We've got a brilliant conversation, as we always do. And today is actually going to be a show which I've been looking forward to for a long time, because we had this show about 6 months or so ago. And the reason why I'm looking forward to it is because 6 months is a long time when it comes to AI automation and how TA teams are actually adopting it. And I think we're going to see a world of change from what was happening just under half a year ago compared to how it is today. We've got a brilliant show for you, bringing in some practitioners with some real experience as to how they have automated some processes, but also in so doing, kind of created a question which they've had to answer, which is, what do you do with the recruiter time that you've saved? If AI sourcing is suddenly saving you, 20 hours a week, what happens to the recruiters who previously were spending 20 hours, those 20 hours, doing the activity of sourcing? That is a very important question. We all need to be equipped with a policy and an answer for that. And I'm delighted to say I've brought in some really brilliant people that are going to help us talk through it. Okay, anyway, let's just make sure sound checks are okay. I want to make sure audio and visuals fine, folks. So everyone, if you can hear and see me okay, do let me know. I've lost my earpods, by the way, so I've got to wear the over ears. I hope that's okay. Let me know whether audio visuals fine. I am also broadcasting this on LinkedIn, and several LinkedIns are firing off here, by the way. So if you're watching this on my LinkedIn or Rob's LinkedIn or Adam's LinkedIn or whatever, let me know whether the audio and visual is fine. Just ping me a comment in the LinkedIn chat there, and we'll be good to go. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nicola. Thank you, everyone. Debbie and Shruti and so forth. Brilliant to have you all on. Okay, cool. Listen. I should do a sponsor message first, shouldn't I? Yes, I should. Listen, Brain Food Live cannot kind of continue without our sponsors spending time with us and indeed investing money, making sure these shows stay on the road. And today's sponsor is one of our favorite sort of companies of this year, and in fact, I think they've been one of the favorite companies in recruitment technology in general, because they have had some tremendous success. I've been delighted to see it, mainly because they're a European-based company, and we need to see more of that. We need to see European companies do well, not only in Europe but also globally. And I'm delighted to say Mackie have been one of those people, one of those organizations. Mackie people, they started off pretty much as a kind of an AI assessment type of service. Today, they're much more than that, and they're expanding scope into all kinds of different sort of parts of the recruitment hiring funnel. And I'm delighted to say I'm being joined with my son here. Great to see you. Thank you for popping in and saying hello. Why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you and what it is you do?
Of course. Nice to see you too. Thank you for having me, Hunk. I know that Ben couldn't make it today, so apologies, but you are stuck with me. But yeah, just to give a bit of background on me,
This is a significant upgrade, so don't worry. Significant upgrade on Ben, no doubt.
I won't tell him. He'll never know. But yeah, sure. Just to give you a bit of background on me. So I'm a senior business psychologist here at Mackie People. So I sit within our science team. Day to day, I work alongside people scientists, psychometricians, and really what we're doing is bridging the gap between psychology and technology, specifically AI, making sure that the assessments that we build are grounded in science and that they're fair, valid, and reliable, but also innovative.
Yeah, that's fantastic because it's always been one of the differentiators of Mackie, hasn't it? That you've had a like a scientific basis to everything that you were doing. I remember very early on, very early sort of part of the process. So I had a chat with Maxime, I think, a couple of years ago, and he was saying, yeah, listen, the only reason this emerges through this like long history of scientific validation before even going to products. So fantastic to see that. And can you give us an update right now as to where Mackie are? I mean, what are you guys doing as interesting that people might not know about? What's happening with product and so on?
Yeah, there's loads going on, to be honest, and we have a fully fledged roadmap that we're very excited to be working on. But one of the main things at the moment that is super exciting to our clients is some of our assessments that are open-ended and conversational. So meaning that candidates are responding to questions in their own words, and those responses are scored by AI. And we know that when you hear that AI is evaluating candidates, it's natural to wonder if that is actually trustworthy. Is it fair? Can I defend that decision if someone challenges it? So yeah, I'd be happy to talk through a little bit about how we do that and how we've partnered with external auditing entities as well to ensure that our assessments are fair. Would you welcome that?
Mm. I would welcome a quick pressy, but it tells me that we probably should do a focus show on it because
That would be
I
great.
think you know me, a lot of every product out there is going to tell the story of, look, it is, validated, debiased, etc. You have to come up with that rhetoric when you're rolling out technology of this sort. But I think sort of the audience doesn't know how to interpret that sort of
Yeah.
message. So I think at some point we might need to have a deep dive on it and just say, okay, how does it actually work from that point of view? But yeah, if you could give us a truncated view of it, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. So from a science perspective, of course, AI will do the scoring of the candidates responding to the questions that are being asked to them. But what you might not see or know is that what's underpinning that is a very rigorous process that is scoring those candidates that is based on psychometric principles. So rather than the AI scoring the candidate based on a hunch or an intuition, we are feeding the AI a prompt that is saying you need to score the candidates based on these behavioral anchors and only give them a score of 1, 2, 3, or 4, for example, based on how they've responded. So we make sure that the candidate's answer is mapped to a behavioral anchor that then helps the AI score candidates in a way that is fair, robust, and we of course undergo rigorous testing to make sure that on participants before we go live with any of these tools or assessments, that we are running statistical analysis to ensure that there's no kind of biases for any demographic groups, to ensure that the AI is scoring similarly to a human. So we have AI and humans score the same candidates. And only if we observe a high correlation between those two do we decide to go live with that. So there are a few guardrails in place. And recently, as I mentioned, we just worked with Holistic AI to ensure that our assessments are fair. And they were able to validate that all of our grids didn't show any kind of impact for any demographic groups, which is really positive.
Yeah, for the people who don't know, who are holistic grids, can you give us a quick overview?
Yeah, so Holistic AI is an external entity. So they're an AI governance platform, and they partner with companies to help assess whether their tools are fair. So obviously we can do that ourselves and test that internally with participants, but it's a different level of trustworthiness and reliability when you can also say that you've been externally validated. And so that's why we've partnered with them on that.
Yeah, fantastic. I can see from the chat as well, so many people popping in questions. Obviously, the audience is basically interested in the topic.
Yeah.
So no doubt we should do a focus show on this. I think the next time around, I mean, Mackie sponsored loads of shows, so we'll get you back to do a proper one-to-one maybe, or maybe bring in some of the other partners in as well to discuss it, because I think we could all do the education on it. I think AI literacy and AI literacy on responsible AI also needs to
Mhm.
increase, like from our side. So that's fantastic stuff. Okay, listen, final question for you. What kind of things should customers of Mackie be expecting down the pipe? Do you have anything that's happening over the next quarter, let's say, that they should
Mhm.
keep an eye out for, that's interesting product wise?
Absolutely. I think one of the key focuses, which actually came up in one of the questions in the chat, is about mitigating against cheating. So something that we've been focusing on recently is upping our game when it comes to our proctoring abilities, which we already had a range of those, but based on client and candidate feedback and just recent research, our tech team has been really focusing on how can we take that to the next step and make sure that we are indeed catching responses that are authentic and coming from the candidate.
Yeah, super important. And I don't know if a single organization that hasn't got that top of mind, like how do you actually prevent fraud, essentially? How do you prevent sort of, or at least detect fraud or misuse? Because that's kind of part of your job now. You can't be a recruiter and not have this as part of what you're doing. Okay, my Sam, listen, brilliant to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us an update and an overview of where you're at with Mackie People. A brilliant product, and I'd love to sort of see how well you guys are doing. MackiePeople.com, folks. If you need to have a sort of artificial intelligence layer on your hiring funnel, this is a product you should check out. MackiePeople.com. Cool, fantastic stuff. Okay, well, listen, we're going to get on with the show. First thing I've got to do is actually bring back Adam Gordon. Would you believe he's been missing in action from the show for a little while, and yeah, I've got to kind of bounce him back in so that he's not sort of completely out of touch with us. All right, I've added him to the thing. He should be here. There he is. Hello,
I've got
Adam.
to bring back Adam Gordon. Would you believe? As if it's such
Yeah,
a huge shock.
By no means popular demand, Adam. By no means, mate. But it's great to see you back.
And
you're looking well. Yeah, that's
I'll turn
it.
up regardless. Yeah.
You're looking well. You've lost a bit of weight, if you don't mind me saying.
No, I've just got a suntan.
No,
I was in Valencia for a few days.
For Valencia, eating pies, and you put on a bit of weight, but you're looking good. So great to see you back, mate. And yeah, you should introduce yourself for the people who are now unfamiliar with who you are. Why don't you introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do, man?
Yeah, so I've been in recruiting. I keep making this joke. I'm going to have to stop making it. It's not even a joke. It's the truth. I've been in recruiting since the late 1900s, and I wasn't a particularly good employee. I actually worked for an agency for 3 years. I was all right. And then worked in recruitment marketing for a couple of years, worked in consulting at PwC, and then started building my own businesses. First was social media search, a sourcing business. The second was candidate ID, recruitment marketing automation. And I've been building for the last 2.5 years, I've been building Poetry, which is a hiring enablement, recruitment marketing, recruitment operations workspace.
Yeah, brilliant. And actually relevant for this topic, Adam, because we're talking about how if automation is coming in and eating 50% of the work that recruiters previously did, what are recruiters doing with their time? How are we going to kind of invest that time? That's the big topic of today. All right, we're going to get to that in a minute. But let's review the newsletter real quick. Can you give us a quick overview, not an overview, but pick out 2 or 3 things that was interesting from Recruiting Brain Food last week, and we'll have a quick chat about them.
All right, so HR's opportunity is really huge, but winning requires moving from strategy and intent to real execution and business impact, according to Boston Consulting Group, who produced a report around HR's power moves that they recommend. So they've said that HR's shifting from being a support function to becoming a core driver of business value, which is great. And in order to do that, they really must lead enterprise-wide transformation, HR transformation, and AI transformation, while modernizing HR itself. There is a major execution gap right now, however, and AI and skills initiatives need to become considerably more tangible, and HR needs to be driving that. I've actually been saying this for quite some time. I really think that HR can become the center of how an organization completes its tasks. And I don't think that's a million miles away as a concept from what BCG's been advocating for in this article.
Yeah, it's a good article. I mean, I had to grit my teeth through it when they were talking about, oh, we've got to become like a strategic partner and all this. I said, how many decades are we going to roll that sort of one out? It's like we've got to play a different tune here, really. But it convinced me as I went through it, because basically it had some very strong recommendations which you couldn't disagree with, which is essentially get your own house in order, in order to be able to demonstrate to the rest of the business that actually you might be the function that can help other functions and make this transition into an AI-enabled workforce. So yeah, I think the opportunities there. I think the risk is massive as well. I mean, if you do nothing, I think you're going to be out of business effectively. So you have to go and do something. But that something could be a whole new world, you know. So fantastic stuff. It's a worthy report. It's free and easy to download. So I've just shared the link in the chat stream. Go ahead and have a look at that. All right, give us a two more, mate.
Okay, OpenAI's policy paper, industrial policy for the intelligence age, putting people first or something like that is the title. People read this and they'll go, this is a cynical attempt to encourage humanity to think that OpenAI don't want to automate us as human beings. But anyway, what they're saying is that AI is rapidly advancing towards super intelligence, which is going to massively boost productivity and innovation and all that sort of thing. But without any type of intervention, AI is going to exacerbate the shift towards a concentration of wealth and power. It's going to disrupt jobs. There's going to be it doesn't say this specifically, but there's going to be one person companies making $1 billion and valued at $1 trillion and stuff like that. And the potential for super evil baddies is very, very high. So they've talked about key economic priorities being broadening access to AI, supporting workers through the transition, enabling entrepreneurship, modernizing tax systems, and really just changing the entire world around OpenAI. I think it's extremely interesting to understand what they're saying, but how transparent or otherwise this is about what Sam actually thinks, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I think Sam does have big plans, doesn't he? I mean, he owns WorldCoin, which seems to be the way in which payments might operate in some kind of weird sort of everyone connected future. He's using all kinds of skills products. He's obviously deeply embedded in a number of organizations, and he's rolled out sort of a policy paper there, which I think it is a little bit of a signal, a bit of a, I wouldn't say a false signal, but it's to say, yes, a lot of people are going to be unemployed. And in fact, a lot of companies are going to crunch down because this kind of gesture towards entrepreneurship to say, yeah, entrepreneurship is going to be the future to absorb a lot of the laid off people. And I'm thinking, yeah, how many of those are precariously entrepreneurs, like involuntarily on the market and setting up companies, not because they're desperate to be an entrepreneur, but because, there may not be another opportunity in perm work back in the market for them. So yeah, I think it's worth reading just to read between the lines a little bit. But yeah, some of the big companies out there are definitely thinking there's going to be huge changes in terms of how people are going to be employed. Okay, give us one more, mate, before we get on with it.
All right, Tony DeGraff's superb global TA benchmark report. If you don't read anything else this quarter, read this publication. As far as I'm concerned, I think it's absolutely brilliant. So it says that TA is shifting from being reactive to more strategic and data-driven. AI adoption is uneven. There's wide adoption, but it's definitely uneven, and the benefits are not yet consistently delivered right across the function. The biggest performance gaps in execution rather than strategy. I think people know what they need to be doing. The leading TA teams are moving towards what he's calling precision hiring, which is focusing on quality and targeting a full funnel kind of approach rather than volume and the traditional metrics around time to hire and stuff like that we've been focused on. Candidate experience and employer brand remain key differentiators. And the final thing that I want to cover in terms of what you said is that TA teams are definitely moving towards becoming more lean, tech-enabled, and business-critical functions. So I think about this concept of 40-40-20 that Rich Wilson talks about a lot, which is 40% of our current business is going to be employees, 40% are going to be contingent, and 20% is going to be effectively AI agents taking over what we're doing. I think that's very likely to kind of happen, although I wouldn't put the 20% actually in as employees. But I think that's quite likely as to what's going to happen. And Tony's kind of spelled out that it's already happening.
Yeah, I mean, I actually agree with you with your first thing you said. I think, Adam, basically, if you read one thing from last week, it should be this document. It is a brilliant piece of work. I think it itself is actually evidence of AI at work. And I hope Tony won't mind me saying this, but he is a heavy user of artificial intelligence. He's an advanced user of it, and he's used AI to put this together. But it is an outstanding piece of work, and he's only got a 3-man team. That would have taken, 5 years ago, that report couldn't have been produced by anything other than a full-on, proper 200-300 man type consultancy. So it's a brilliant piece of work. It's an audit, so you can go and audit yourself as well for free, and then bench yourself against where everyone else has put their their marks, and then it's kind of as a natural pathway based on where you place as to what you should do next. So yeah, brilliant piece of work, Tony de Graaf, well done. And connect with him on LinkedIn, by the way, because he's a guy you should follow. Okay, that's it. Let's get on with it. We're going to bring in a few folks here onto the show and get the chat going. By the way, I'm terrified already because have you seen what Steve Levy's saying? Steve's in the mood, and he's actually coming onto the screen as well, which kind of terrifies me. But there we go. There's a good reason to have a mute button there, hovering and available. We'll make sure this. Steve is in the control. All right, let's just bring some of our friends on screen here. We'll see where we're at, and we'll get on with this conversation. So Steve Levy, brilliant guy as he is, firecracker. There you go. By the way, folks, as we bring on our guests onto the screen, if you have any questions for any of our guests, please do use the ask a question function on the right hand side of the screen. That way we're going to be able to get to all the questions at the end of the show and not be in a position where we're missing any of those things out. Okay, brilliant stuff. Let's say hello to a few people. As I see it, from actually everyone's here, so fantastic. Why don't we start off with you, Steve? Wonderful to see you again. Great chat with you as always. Why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
I'm Steve Levy. I'm involved in talent sourcing, talent tech, and cyber stuff with R1 RCM health payments, a massive industry that people don't realize is this massive and this ripe for AI and automation.
Fantastic stuff. Steve Levy, by the way, I've just shared his LinkedIn. He's one of the most amusing and entertaining and I think important writers on LinkedIn. So go and follow him on there. He's going to come out and tell you the truth, even if you don't like it. Just share it in the chat there. Make sure you follow. Okay, we have Victoria here as well. Victoria, wonderful to see you. Who are you? What it is you do, Victoria?
Hi there, Victoria Murphy. I work at JLL and I am in HR operations. TA is one of my pillars, but like Adam, I have to confess that I started out in recruitment in the 1900s, many, many decades ago. So something that is very passionate and close to my heart. And first of all, thank you for inviting me back again. Looking forward to be talking about a very familiar subject, AI, and what that means to the recruitment world today.
Yeah, brilliant. And I've been kind of from a distance following Victoria's journey, her own personal career over the last 2 years or more. And the relevancy of her direct experience to this topic, I think, is absolutely bang on. So really looking forward to seeing what you have to say and share with us, Victoria. We have Mark Harmon here as well. Mark Harmon, he's on pat leave, folks. He's on pat leave and he's stepped away for an hour from his essential family sort of responsibilities to share some knowledge with us. So round of applause for his commitment there, Mark Harmon. But Mark, can you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Yeah, you've done me a favour. It means I don't have to change nappies for the next hour, so thank you. Yeah, hey, I'm Mark. Great to be back again on the show. I look after talent operations and transformation enablement at Wise in London.
Yeah, fantastic stuff, Mark. Also got some brilliant sort of live experience, like direct experience of this transition. So really fantastic to have you on the show. And we have Joe here as well. Joe Atkinson, great to see you. Can you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Yeah. Hey everyone, Joe Atkinson. Do a couple of things. So the day job is Director of AI at Seed, which is a recruitment services company here in the UK, working with tech companies from seed through to publicly listed. That's a like org-wide role, so thinking a lot about how our recruiters use AI, but also like our entire company. So a big initiative for myself right now is building like an AI native leadership team. And then I also co-founded and co-run a community called PromptMates, which is all about helping both HR and TA leaders on their journey to kind of becoming AI native and figuring out what the hell they should be doing right now.
Fantastic stuff, Joe. Brilliant to have you on the show. Okay, let's get on with it. Steve Levy, let's just start with you, because I do believe it was actually one of your posts that prompted a little bit of dialogue between me and you, and then got you invited onto the show, wasn't it? I think you wrote something. I forget what it was, but feel free to share it in the chat stream. But can you remind me about what the point you were making in that show, Steve? In that post, should I say?
This was one I wrote last week. It was entitled, "I regret to inform you that the hiring process," and it was more of just a little bit of background. I was an engineer for 15 years. I've been recruiting now for 39 years, which boggles my mind. I don't think there's really a single person who spent years in TA who is not one lottery ticket away from leaving the profession. But that being said, we're so ingrained in it that, by virtue of longevity, we feel obliged to help improve it. And what got me was, and you've said this to me before, I was on your stage at RecFest years ago, but TA, particularly now that we have a whole new tranche of TA leaders and TA and hiring managers, we're in a stage where so many people grew up on participation trophies and receiving blue ribbons for finishing 17th. There is, I think TA has historically been known as a service function. I say that's why we got ourselves into this straits. We're a performance function. We should be a performance function, and we should be judged and and adjudicated according to those things. But we aren't. And I think, frankly, and some of the things that are going through the chat, what's going to happen if all this time comes back? And I'm going to say right now, if you are not using that line that free time to become more knowledgeable, you are wasting your space in an organization. Case in point, how many tech recruiters still don't know what API stands for? How many think that a measure, Victoria, you can laugh out loud if you want. How many people think, as an example, that the number of microservices dictates how good you are? This is the lack of knowledge, and part of it is sometimes there's a saying, sometimes you forget you're there to drain the swamp when you're up to your ass in alligators. And that's what TA has become. It's hurry up, wait. Hurry up, wait. I don't think they're a culture fit. We'll have to keep interviewing some. I go back to what John Vlastelica, our friend, has been saying for years. If you're not advising for better TA, you're wasting our time.
So Steve, what you're saying with this is ultimately like almost the historical journey that TA has put us in a bad position in this AI enablement moment, so to say, because let's say we are a service industry. I think that's probably true. A lot of us come from recruitment agency. I don't think that helps because we're pretty much used to saying yes to customers, right? We wanted to take the jobs. We're yes people at that point, and we never
don't broad brush blast agencies. Most, but not all. Not all. Maybe in your years on an agency, maybe. But look, here's the bottom line, and I wrote this in this piece. It's let me put it in here. There it is. I said, recruiting has become a fascinating little ecosystem of self-congratulation built on top of organizational indecision. That's a hard place to be in. And in order to extract ourselves from that, TA leaders have to move away from keeping their jobs to doing their jobs. And that takes verve. I mean, all of us here have led it. It's hard being the head of TA. But at some point you're gonna get a point in your life where you're gonna wake up and you go, man, I could have done better. I really could have done better. I should have done better. Don't wait to that point to do there. And if your straight talk and real data driven, reality based advice is frowned upon, get out. Find someplace else. You're going to find a place who's going to accept leaders who are going to accept your mode of doing things. And that translates also into AI. AI is merely, it's no different. I was there when PCs came in the company, when internet came in, when Y2K didn't destroy the world, etc. People adapt. They always adapt. They find a way to maintain themselves. But the other force that we don't talk about enough is, the people who are involved in bringing this tech in don't care about that. They want more power. They want more control. It's no different than, the Tesla fan people who go, EVs are everything. Elon Musk can do no wrong. It's the same thing with AI. We have to be better consumers. In order to be better consumers, we have to be more knowledgeable. And that's the line in the sand that most people don't want to cross.
All right. So what I'm hearing from you, Steve, is essentially
you asked me on.
I did, mate. I'm regretting it. I got to be honest. But there we go. Yeah, we're straight talking, Steve. Let's straight talk. But let's. I just want to repeat what you said, and the only reason why I do that is so that we can move on to some of the other guests, because they've got to come on chat here as well. Firstly, knowledge gap is what you're saying. It's not necessarily about AI at this stage. It is about lack of knowledge and a kind of a service mentality, which has put us in a wrong position because we basically don't have the status to negotiate space within the organization. So that's where I'm hearing you. But let's move on to Victoria's point of view here, because Victoria, you're working with JLL, big organization, massive enterprise, where you do have to battle away, and inherently you have to be a little bit more politically, I guess, capable, because the bigger the organization, the more complex the environment, and that's how you've got to kind of trade around. How have you managed this situation? You've had some transitions internally as well. What's your take on how TA should kind of approach this current moment?
But first of all, I could sit and listen to you for hours, Steve, and quite frankly, could come to the Steve show this afternoon. But amazing insights, because, to reflect on what you've just said there, Hung, and Steve's comments, we're looking at it as being what we're calling the great unchaining. Because we want to liberate our recruiters from low value work. We have created an environment. And I know I've said it before on the last time we were here, and we talk about the 1900s, but our talented recruiters have become inbox managers and system administrators. And so we've had this battle for the last 15, 20 years where we keep saying, we want to be more than a recruiter. We want you to be a talent advisor. But then what we've done is, as an industry, is we've put a screen in front of them and sat them at a desk. So back in the day, like you, Steve, before I didn't have an email or anything like that, and that's when I started out as a recruiter. I'll say this again, the most successful recruiter was that with the highest phone bill and the least amount of leather on the bottom of their shoe. And we need to go back there, because that's not going to get replaced by AI. But the challenge that we have with in-house recruiting is that we don't necessarily create that environment. And that's why, as we're bringing in AI and we're looking at it, we want to make sure that we've sort of got to unchain those strategic recruiters who go and sit with the business, understand what the business is doing, and not be bogged down with sitting behind a computer and a monitor and hiding behind email. So as we go through that lens at JLL, yes, there are tough conversations. Yes, there's frustration, because yes, we are bringing in technology, but equally, we're looking at that balance of those recruiters who are strategic recruiters go and sit with the business, go and because that will not get replaced by AI.
Brilliant stuff, Victoria. Go to you, Mark, on this, because again, these are things you've got to think about as well. And in fact, you've made some changes, I think, over the last 2 years or so, where there has been restructures, there has been redeployments. I wonder whether you could tell us a bit about that, Mark. How has that gone through your thought process? And is it a case, as Victoria mentioned, you've got to kind of identify star performers? I don't want to use that term, but you know what? Let's say high capability people to try and increase their capability. And I guess we also need to talk about the folks that aren't so high capability. Like, what do we do with those? I mean, how have you handled that situation, Mark?
Yeah, I think what's been discussed so far, I kind of agree. And I don't think it's just at the head of and the leadership level of recruitment. It's recruiters as well, right? They also need to be able to be empowered to push back and say, no, this doesn't make sense, or how can we actually make it make sense? And I think some of the best recruiters I've worked with are those, to Victoria's point, are the people that go and sit with the business, actually understand what we're doing. Why are we assessing this at this stage, or why are we not assessing this earlier in the process? Rejig processes and kind of manage that whole structure of an interview and assessment piece, to then kind of bring it back into this kind of scalable approach. Because at the moment, what I feel like with recruiters is a lot of requisitions that they get are problems to solve. It's not a repeatable, scalable hiring process. So when you're trying to layer AI on top of problems to solve, it's not going to work. Like, you need to get to that point where it's a repeatable, scalable hiring process before you can start layering AI in. And I think, to the point that was mentioned earlier in that TA benchmarks report, that's possibly part of the reason why this has been a little bit sporadic, and where there's been some success and some not so much, even within a business. If I look across Wise at the moment, I know there are certain areas where absolutely we could do more with AI, and there's some areas that probably need to adapt a little bit first before we can really go down that route.
Yeah, just to press on that point a little bit, Mark, I mean, how would you then go ahead to ensure that those weaker areas are addressed? Can you tell us a little bit about how you'd go ahead and go about and do that?
Yeah, I think it's showing the benefits that you could get from doing this, right? And one of the examples that we had at Wise was with Mackie. We're actually a customer of Mackie people, right? And it's a case of we're going to get all of this volume of applicants in at top of funnel. That means we need X amount of recruiters. If we were able to get to a point where we could really deeply understand what makes somebody successful in this role and assess that really early in the process, all of a sudden recruiters are going to get more time back. The business is going to get more time back, because they're not going to be interviewing candidates that are a really poor fit at second, third, or final stages of an interview process. We screen those people out early. It's fairer on the candidate, it's fairer on the recruiter, and fairer on the business. So I think trying to help the business to understand that, yes, it's painful to go through this, and yes, we need to slow down a little bit before we can speed up. But this is an absolute necessity if you want to get to a point where you have this scalable approach in the future.
Yeah, really good. Joe, I've got to bring you in at this point. How do you make sure that when you implement AI, sort of the outcomes are not, okay, great, we're going to have to reduce headcount? How do you make sure that actually the time saved is reinvested in doing the job better? Or as Steve and Victoria said in the beginning, becoming a little bit more prominent in business, becoming, just basically bigger people within the organization?
Yeah, I think this might be a disappointing answer, but I think it's a realistic one. We're not saving that much time yet, and I don't think anyone, or I don't think many people, are saving loads of time. I think there's a bit of a misconception with where we're at with AI right now. I think generally on the adoption curve, we're at the experimentation phase still, and what experimentation means is we're figuring out the use cases and where we're going to get the real strong ROI. That is actually on top of the day job. It's not instead of the day job. So in a lot of cases, there's more on the to-do list right now. So for us internally, the two main focuses are that experiment, but also get our house in order so we can build on top, and then really build those automations which are going to save us time. And for us, because we have quite a complicated business, we're not just working one recruitment process. We've got 25, 30 different orgs, recruitment processes we're running. So we need a really strong internal data set that's clean and scalable. But this also maps with some research we're doing across the industry. The big buckets of time for recruiters are sourcing, screening, and assessing. Like, these are the big buckets which take a lot of time. They're also the one which is like the lowest on the adoption curve. So I think it's 87% of folks have got AI in like around 21 to 25% of their tasks, so less than a quarter, which doesn't like represent these tasks which take way more than a quarter of a time. So we started to think about what our recruiters are going to do, and I'd echo Victoria's thoughts earlier on some of the tasks they will spend their time on, but yeah, I think the reality in the market is we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, well, thanks for that sort of check as to where we're at, Joe. Appreciate it. You did also mention a few kind of these big buckets where we do seem to be seeing, let's say, technology solutions being prominent. I think the recruitment tech sort of areas certainly focused on these low-hanging fruits, the sourcing, the scheduling, applicant review. We're seeing all of this type of come out. I think they're going to be table stakes in 12 months time, right? I mean, you look down the track 12 months down the line, aren't we going to see every recruiter using these tools? And if so, does that actually reduce the amount of effort the time that goes into that work? And if that's the case, what else do you expect them to do? Any thoughts on that? I'll leave anybody to pop in and have a chat, comment on that.
Can I just respond on that? Yeah, those are not the buckets where the best like low-hanging fruit exists, as far as I'm concerned. So in 2024, you might recall, I did a large piece of research with the Talent Labs. It was a time and motion study with about 1,800 recruiters who participated in that. Recruiters are spending their time on a whole variety of other tasks that are not within sourcing and screening. And the third one, sorry, Joe, what was the third one? Sourcing, screening, and
assessment. Yeah.
They are spending hours and hours every day doing desktop research to find the talent intelligence they need to try and be a talent partner, talent advisor. They're building sourcing assets, they're building marketing assets, they're building operational recruitment assets. This is all like a huge time suck. And so when I decided to focus on hiring enablement, they were the areas that I wanted to focus on because they were the ones that were quietly taking up so much time. And my experience is that recruiters who are using AI to orchestrate and automate in that area are making a lot more progress than those that are focused on things like screening and sourcing.
Yeah, thanks for that, Adam. Mark, I think you were about to say something. You want to pop in now?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you fast forward to that world where a lot of that stuff is automated and AI is working really well on those areas, I think that where we come back to what we've been harping on about for the last 20 years around becoming talent partners, right? And I feel like recruitment will almost split in two, where we'll have a core function within recruitment, which is the existing recruitment operations teams and those transformation teams that look after the agents and the agentic side, the tooling and the tech. And then you'll have the business partnering side of things, talent partners or talent growth partners that should actually probably sit within engineering, within product, within finance, that when we're talking about, right, we need to launch into this new country or we want to launch this new product, working backwards from that, what do you actually need to hire? And do we need more like FTE in the business, or could we actually do this on a contracting basis, or should we outsource this piece of work? So rather than recruiting, it's almost like recruitment advising at that very, very early stage, which should then impact on workforce planning, which is another problem which we don't have time to talk about today, but that should also improve the workforce planning side of things. So we actually understand what we need to hire, what jobs and what problems we need to solve, because it's not always just people that will solve those, right? So I think that's where recruitment is likely to split.
And I think, Joe, you make a really good point there where you're saying people aren't necessarily feeling it or seeing the benefits at the moment. For us, and I think to what you were just saying there, Mark, about differentiating we differentiate again between high volume and non-high volume. So we call it, strategic hiring versus high volume. So we have found that we've had considerable time back for the high volume, where we've used AI in pilots in certain countries, where basically what we've enabled is the hiring manager to do their own hiring directly through technology, because it's high volume and fast paced and they just need to get the people on site. So that's where we're going to see the benefits. Where we don't see the AI benefits, because you don't feel that pace, because actually the hiring manager is not necessarily looking for that pace, is that lower volume, more senior roles, more strategic roles. But that's where is actually less of a technology solution and more of what, Mark, you're saying, which is actually you sort of become an HR business partner that also does recruitment. You start to understand the intricacies of internal compensation structures so that you can be talking to the hiring managers one step ahead of even going out to the market versus going out to the market on a decision the business has already made. So there is a delineation actually that AI across recruitment doesn't necessarily mean every single hire has to be touched by AI. I think that there are different variances in that.
And Victoria, you bring up a point about the financial aspect of our profession, either from a leadership standpoint and from a tactical recruiter standpoint. And really, it goes back to knowledge. I mean, as an example, anyone who has open recs, we ask range, and we know range is it's a market thing, whether it's broadbands or not. But we realistically rarely hire at the top end of the band. When budget planning is conducted, it's typically something like a 55% percentile or 75th percentile, something of that nature. Most recruiters don't know that. It's really the basics. If you can't get the basics right, if your foundation isn't solid, anything that you build upon that, it's Jenga. That's all it is. And Jenga is not a really good strategy for our profession. So, structure begets function. That's the first engineering lesson I learned almost 50 years ago when I started college. But it still holds true today. If we don't inculcate into our recruiters and our recruiting leaders the core stuff, about great recruiting, AI is going to obviate the need for us. Every technology that's come along has done that. You can't ostriching yourself, sticking your head in the sand is not a strategy for career development.
Folks, I want to draw your attention to something Joseph Cadlet said in the chat. I thought was really interesting. It's relevant. It's kind of not directly it's basically adjacent to this topic, but it's essentially the idea that actually AI optimization. Let's just read Joseph's point so that people who are watching this rather than reading it will understand what I'm saying. Personal recruiter productivity isn't business transformation. So I'll repeat that again. Personal recruiter productivity isn't business transformation. And I've asked Jose to explain a bit further. And essentially what he said is that, all right, you might have a bunch of people to become AI enabled. We all know some people are AI super users. They're super advanced. They can just whistle up something. It's like, oh my goodness, this person is now running at hyper speed doing what they're doing. However, having a bunch of those in your business doesn't actually make the business more productive. It just sometimes creates more chaos. Because people are out of kilter and you're creating bottlenecks everywhere. What's our thoughts on this? How do we actually ensure that when people do become AI enabled, that productivity actually does translate to team level and to organizational level? Any thoughts on this? Joe, let's go to you as you're doing prompt mates. I assume that this is something you thought about.
Yeah, we're thinking about it there, but we're also thinking about it internally. And it goes back to what I said earlier, like considering what stage of a curve you're at. Like a lot of the things we're trying to figure out are like, what is the best way of doing things and what are the use cases? One person just doing that and experimenting could figure it out over time. If you get 10 people doing it, you can go a lot quicker and you can take the best things from each one. Now, that isn't necessarily that efficient because you're all repeating work in the short term. And some people will spend longer, some people will do it worse. You'll get uneven outcomes and it will be a little bit horrible and clunky, like building a product from the ground up often is. So I agree that's not the end point, but I do think it's the start point. And then what's really key is that you take the learnings and you find the best way of doing it, you centralize it, and then you roll out like a standard way of doing things. So like for us at Seed, that's exactly what we're doing. We've got a lot of people with like freedom to experiment within guardrails on certain use cases. And then we're building like a database and a playbook of how we want to do things. So I do think you need both, and it relates to what stage of kind of adoption you're at.
Do you know,
so that's
really
like
interesting.
Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say, really interesting. We've just started like an innovation function within the talent strategy team, right? So we've got one person looking after this at the moment, where there is a defined budget for the innovation piece. And that innovation team will be the one that looks after tools and tech and what we can trial and test in small areas and kind of under those guardrails that Joe was talking about, but all A/B testing across that to figure out the best way. Because I think you're right. Nobody really knows. If we did, then we wouldn't be sitting here having these chats. But being able to test, being able to come back with a clear return on investment for a piece of tooling or for a process change or for a change in ways of operating with the business is key.
I want to echo that because, Mark, I'm doing the same thing here, and I've done the same thing elsewhere. And so I'm going to propose, purely I'm sucking up to Hung, a recruiting brain food TA innovation council. I mean it, so we can share all these things.
I mean,
yeah, I think the way to do it, whether it's with brain food or anything else, is to decentralize experimentation. So everyone go ahead and experiment, but then have a system where it brings in that sort of independent sort of discovery and then centralizes it and then rolls it out maybe as policy or strategy or recommendation or whatever, however strong you want to put it, and say this is how we've discovered as a collective where we're at. And then again, decentralize experimentation and then bring it back again. Victoria, you're looking at me with a scowl on your face. Have I just said something heretical? What are you doing at JLL?
Face, but where I was going with this is that all of that is really important. But in addition, we're having some amazing conversations in the industry, and I've seen some comments in here about actually why we should be investing in training our recruiters more on the softer skills and going back to the old ways of the softer skills versus tech. All of that I really agree with. But I think there's one fundamental piece that none of us are talking about so far on this call, is that the hiring managers, we can change, we can bring all of this, we can work differently. But if we say to that recruiter, go and sit with a business, go and be an advisor, go and do this and go that, and the hiring manager sits there and says, where are my 3 CVs? And can you send them via email or by pigeon? Then our poor recruiters are up against that battle of the rest of people we interacting with not changing. So there's got to be that balance of all of us coming together, of course, as industry knowledge and we understand it, we believe in it, we want to do it. But if the people who are receiving this service, I know we don't like to call it a service, but if they're people who are receiving this aren't bought into the same ways of working, then we're not setting our recruiters up for success.
Sorry, go on, Mark.
No, I agree. I think this is where leadership comes in as well, right? So that needs to be at the top level. This needs to be agreed, and the recruiters need to be empowered to be able to do that and push back on hiring managers that are saying, where are my 3 CVs? And at the moment, I don't think that's true of all recruiters. They don't have that confidence or that safety to be able to do that.
And and on that point, I've been, if you've seen me present, I mean, when I open up my talk, I always poll the audience, and this has been going on for 12 plus years. I say, show of hands, in the last 30 days, how many people here have wanted to kill a hiring manager? And everyone laughs. I go, and the laughs get louder each year. So we're not fixing the problem, the structural core problem. And it gets, it's getting
them.
worse.
I know it's a bit of a cliche, but we're not taking them on the journey. We're telling them what we want to do, and we tell them the why we want to do it, but we're not actually bringing them in the room and building it with them. And that's where we've got to change. And we're certainly looking at how, when we're building things, we're doing it with them versus at them, because that's where we get stuck.
But all of us have taken a hiring manager by the hand, and this is how we do it. This is the whole And then when the shit hits the fan and everyone is wired, they revert back to, being a 4-year-old going, and it's not, this is not an easy thing. And I propose duct tape, quite frankly.
Violence. No. Joe Atkinson, you're about to say something. I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I've been trying to nerd out as much as possible on AI transformation, having found myself weirdly in this role and trying to figure out how to do that for the first time. And a lot of I think best practice that I've picked up from some chief people officers on transformation is like your at like a company level, your approach to like AI transformation has to match your approach to culture. So it's like how we work, how like we operate as a company. And then a layer below that, your recruiting team, like how your approach to AI has to match the company's approach to AI. And then when you go to a hiring manager, it's very easy to, I say very easy in air quotes here, but it's like somewhat easier to justify like why we're doing things in a certain way, because it fits into this AI policy, which fits into how we work as a business. So whilst it's, you know, I'm saying we need to innovate, like you need to match that to how your company is thinking about it. We can't just be going off and doing it in a completely different way.
That's a very good point, Joe. You've actually given me inspiration maybe for another topic for Brain Food Live. Like, how do we align sort of, we're talking about AI enablement, AI acceleration, but does that actually chime with what you are as a business culture? You know, if your business culture is all about being conservative, being careful, being this, that, and the other, maybe you can't be then shouting at people to get to move faster with AI because the signaling is confused. Really good point. Okay, listen, looking at sort of time, we are running short of it. So we need to answer the question that was in the title. What should recruiters be doing now? Let's agree on the premise, firstly, that artificial intelligence is going to make significant sort of change in terms of the, let's say, time distribution that an average recruiter would otherwise be spending that time. Victoria, great point about high volume hiring, particularly being an example of that. But it may well be we'll start seeing AI sort of interacting with all the other sort of levels of recruitment work, where again you can see a lot of work being delegated to artificial intelligence. You can imagine, let's say, exec search. Previously, you'd be spending tons of time doing, you know, customer sort of candidate cultivation and stuff like this. Yes, AI can support you doing a lot of that actually these days. Maybe not doing the face-to-face, but certainly on the research, certainly on the engagement at the early stage, certainly on keeping people in touch and so on. So all of that time is getting moved into artificial intelligence. What should recruiters be doing in terms of building, expanding their sort of their work? What areas should they focus on? Joe, let's go to you with this. We'll go the opposite way around.
Yeah, I think if we get to a point where like recruiting has fundamentally changed, it means like the org has fundamentally changed and all the roles within it have fundamentally changed. We're all doing different work. Like that fundamentally is quite a big recruiting problem, because we're now going to need to bring people into orgs to do roles they haven't done before, or to like rematch people into different kind of domains and careers or tasks. So I think getting really good at like interview process design, business partnering on figuring out, okay, we've got this brand new stream of work, like how do we assess whether someone can do it or not when they haven't done it before? So that piece, I'd echo Victoria's points on like business partnering, engaging with niche communities. If like outreach becomes very homogenized, you're going to need to find these niche communities, go in person to find people, and then really good at like building relationships, closing candidates. Like business will still be a team sport. You need to convince people to join your team.
Yeah, I love that, Joe. I particularly like the idea of like being that person that's able to engage the disengaged candidate, because I think we can imagine a future where everyone is just AI fatigued out. And no matter how sort of smart your outreach is, they're just going to blank it because they don't trust it. They think it's artificially generated. So how are you able to become the trust relationship person to a particular sort of population that you want to recruit from? I think that type of recruiter is going to be in high demand going forward. Okay, Mark Harmon, your thoughts. What should recruiters be doing now?
I was just thinking that means we all just go back to being in person and doing things over the phone, one-on-one again, right? Which is the completely where we were 20, 30 years ago. If I look to the future, I think that we've kind of addressed it already, but it's educating yourself around the kind of wider people lens, being able to partner with the business. So becoming those kind of growth and talent partners to the business. So spending more time with the business, spending more time educating yourself on wider people topics than just my recruitment funnels.
Yeah, really good. Like that is basically, you can almost measure it in terms of time distribution. I think, Adam, you talked about time over task before, didn't you? It's like, okay, that's not a bad way to think about your job, folks. Where are you spending your time? Where are you distributing it? Look at where sort of AI is doing increasingly amount of that work. that part of your pie is going to shrink. You got to kind of grow the other areas where you're going to continue to add value, and that oftentimes means spending more time with hiring managers. If it's a 1 hour meeting, make that an hour and a half. Build a relationship, get the juice out of that conversation. Okay, Victoria Murphy, your thoughts on this?
Very quickly, I appreciate the time. To me, our recruiters, and particularly in-house recruiters, need to become the guardians of the company's brand's human experience. If they do that, then AI is not a threat to them. There you go.
Yeah, I love that. Like a cultural guardian. You're there to basically understand how people experience your business as they flow through it. And that could be, an early candidate, or maybe they bounce away, or it could be a person that's kind of joined a company and then subsequently left. By the way, we've seen a lot of that recently, haven't we? Where heavily tenured individuals, been there 20 years, chopped out straight away, off you go, like literally no kind of sense that individual deserves anything better. That's obviously very poor. Maybe recruiters certainly should play some sort of role in that. Okay, Steve Levy, listen, a last word to you, sir. What should recruiters be doing now if AI is indeed eating away a lot of the work that recruiters previously did?
3 things. Number 1, remember there are 2 most important social media tools. Still the telephone and the handshake. I think everyone here will echo that. Number 2 is start. If you're not going to start, you're not going to try. If you don't get out of the box, you're going to miss this. You're going to miss your career train. It's that simple. And 3, most importantly, if you don't know, ask. Anybody who's any brain fooder, I will get on a call with them. I will show them stuff that will make their head spin, and you're going to go, it's not that scary. And it's not that scary. The first step is hard.
Yeah.
Doing it is not.
That's it. I love it, Steve. It's basically getting on with it. I mean, we always think it's tomorrow, or it's a weekend project, or this, that, and the other. You know what? It's got to be today, folks. You've got to just get on with it. It's similar to the gym. You can't just say, I'm going to go to the gym. Actually, Joe, you know about this. You can't say, hey, listen, I'm going to go tomorrow. No, it has to be happening now, So there we go. There we go with the dumbbells. Steve's going to have an accident there. He's going to actually put that through the screen. All right, listen, Adam wants the last word. So, Adam, you do have the last word. What was your advice, sir?
Look, this is for anybody in TA, in HR, in finance, in marketing, in IT, in any white-collar job. If you are not able to easily articulate, and you're not actively articulating your impact on the business's overall objectives and strategy, then you might as well go and open a flower shop or do something different, because your days are numbered. That's for everybody.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. Fantastic stuff. Well, listen, that's the end of the show. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I want to thank our wonderful guests for giving such a spicy and interesting and educational conversation. We have Steve Levy, of course, Joe Atkinson, Mark Harmon, Victoria Murphy. Thank you so much for joining the show and sharing your wisdom. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Adam Gordon, great to have you back as co-host. We'll have to do that again, I think. And thank again to the Mackie people for sponsoring the show. It's been great having your support on these Brain Food Lives. Okay, let's let everyone go, because they've got sort of weekends to get on with. I will say goodbye to Victoria, to Mark, to Joe, and to Steve. And we are back next week. We've got a triple header, folks, because you know what? I'm not going to be stopping doing these Brain Food Lives. There's going to be 3 shows happening next week. Number 1, how to hire in Japan. That is happening because I'm going to be in Japan as of next week. And we're going to be talking to local recruiters that know this extraordinary market. They're going to tell us exactly about how not to do it and how to do it. It's going to be a fantastic show. We're also got our friends MetaView coming on. They've got a new applicant reviewer. Okay, let's have a demo of that. Let's have a look, and let's talk about what applicant review looks like when AI takes a huge chunk of that. And then finally on Friday, we've got a high risk brain food show. It's called, we're going to sort of do a live demo of sort of installing OpenClaw. Not quite a live demo, but it's basically OpenClaw, if you didn't know about it, by the way, is kind of the AI product that's been taken the world by storm. Essentially, it is an AI agent in a box doing 24/7 work for you. It is the promise of free labor that never gets tired. Is it any use for recruitment? Can we take a risk with it? We've got a bunch of people saying don't do it. We're going to do it, but we're going to tell you how not to do it. So essentially, that is the show on Friday. Make sure you join if you want to take a look. All right, that's it, folks. Follow the channel if you're interested in more chat. Follow the LinkedIn profile on my page. We're live streaming every time I go live. It also goes live on my LinkedIn as well. All right, that's it. I'll see you later. Have a good weekend.
Just one quick thing on OpenClaw, because it links to, I was gonna try it. That was a great show, by the way, really great show. Everybody was wonderful, and I did want to say one thing about this concept of what Josie said, which was about personal use of AI and personal productivity is not organizational gain. I mean, I could not agree more. Like, I reckon that's massively amplifying the amount of knowledge that goes out the door when a person leaves their organization. I think it's going to be like 90% of what a recruiter knows is now going to go out the door if they're permitted to use their own AI for like just personal productivity things. And OpenClaw being the most extreme example of that. So organizations are going to really have to think about how they retain their IP.
Well, the reality is, Adam, there's a lot of shadow use of AI right now. And there's a lot of people that basically, there's shadow use and people just cheekily using stuff that they shouldn't. I would say still low risk stuff, like let's put this into ChatGPT and produce a bunch of outputs. But then there's high risk stuff where you've got people that want to, let's say, overperform, get bonuses, do well, etc. And they're putting their own companies they're putting their companies at risk, but they don't feel loyal to that company, so they don't really care. And that is a huge problem. How we deal with that, I don't know. Because you're talking about people in their home use often with their home devices. Like, what are you gonna? Well, how can you do it? It seems like it's difficult to police. So yeah, maybe that's another show. We bring Jose on as well to talk about that. Anyway, what are you up to this weekend, man? Anything interesting?
Not really. No. You? What are you? Well, you will be. Is it time to go out now? Night out in Korea?
You know what? I'm in the middle of a hotspot. I'm in the middle of Myeongdong. That's basically where the massive street markets, loads of people getting probably sauced up. I should probably be out there right now, but it's been a very busy day and I feel very tired. I got a bath in my hotel room and I might just sleep in it. But I'll probably be dragged out a little bit later as well. So I'll be out and about for sure. All right, mate. Listen, I'll see you soon, Adam. Good to see you, and we'll catch you soon. Okay.
Bye.